Good morning. Welcome to Talk About It Tuesday, session 2. So today I'm going to get you to talk about the most important things in life and to always remember those important things in life, especially when, like I've said before, the world is quite chaotic at the moment. So today you will need a jar. You might need 3 or 4 large-ish stones, some Sharpie pens or marker pens, some small stones and some sand. So I'm hoping that you will do this activity as a family and not just by yourself. So the stones represent, or the rocks represent, those things that are permanent in our lives, the most important things in our lives, the things that we couldn't do without. So I spoke to my family, and for us, it is family. So I'm going to write family on the stones, okay, family on the stones. And I'm going to place this rock inside my jar. Now, family, it's about making memories, it's about keeping those memories, talking about those memories, good or bad. But if I didn't have family in my life, I would be a very lonely and sad person. Analogies of rocks are big in religion, and this is because they're quite immovable, they're quite solid, and they provide a foundation for things. I'm not sure if any of you have heard about the story of the wise man who built his house upon the rocks, and the not so wise man built his house upon the sand. And you can imagine that the man who built his house upon the rock had a firm foundation for the house, and so the house stood still. But the man who built his house upon the sand, he hadn't built any foundations whatsoever, and so as the rain came, it washed away all of his house, and therefore he was left with nothing. And so the analogy of a rock in our lives is important, because these are the things that build the foundation of our life. So family is the first rock that I'm putting into my jar. The second one we thought as a family was education. Now, education, no matter what type of education it is, knowledge brings you power. So education for us in the Green Street House is important, because with that knowledge we are informed to make good choices, to make the right choices. If we didn't have any kind of education, whether it's from our families, from school, from aunties, uncles, from the police, from the NHS, they give us lifelong lessons and education on how we can live to be the best we possibly can. So for us as the Green Streets, we said that education was a very firm foundation that we needed to build our lives on. And we still continue to get education all throughout our lives. So I'm going to put education in my jar. Now the third and final one that we thought about was friends. Sometimes in life you meet people and they become lifelong friends. Sometimes you meet people and they just become acquaintances. But for us, we have a very small circle of what we would call really good friends, people that we could rely on, people that can rely on us. And for us, friends really do become family. So think about your friendships. Think about your friendship circles that you are in at the moment. Unfortunately, there isn't one person from my school days that I actually can call an amazing, good, reliable friend. We shared a journey together in our education, but actually we have become acquaintances now, where we just On birthdays, on Facebook, we say happy birthday. My friendships have come from the places that I've worked. My friendships have come from going to church. My friendships have come from different places that I've been, and I don't have to see my friends all the time. I know that they're there, and we pick up where we left off. So sometimes we might not see each other for a month, but we know what we said to each other before, and then we can pick up with that conversation again, and we know we can always call on each other. To have that in my life is really important. It's one of the things I would never like to go away. So think about your friends. I'm going to write friends. But we are talking about true friends here. So these three rocks, family, friends and education, form the foundation of my life. Now these rocks are quite heavy, so it would take quite a lot to move them or remove them from my life. These are the ones that I want to hang on to. So then we come on to the smaller stones of our life. So these small stones might represent smaller things in our lives that are important sometimes. So for me, it could be holidays. They are important sometimes to get away, to relax, to recharge my batteries, but actually they're not as important as my family, my friends and my education. Another small stone in my life are my luxuries. So these are things like the machines I have in my house that do the work for me. So I'm talking about my dishwasher, I'm talking about my washing machine. You know, if those went, then maybe I would have to, reevaluate my life, but I could still get by. I could still get by without them. So I've got holidays and I have got machines in my life. I've also got my car. My car is a machine. Now there was a time when people didn't have cars and they had to walk everywhere or use transport. So for me, if my car went, it's another luxury that I wouldn't mind if it wasn't in my life. If it wasn't in my life. So I have two more stones left. Two more stones left. So think about, whilst I show you these two stones, you think about the things in your life that it wouldn't matter if they went away. It could be your Xbox. It could be your phone. It could be the material things. These are the things that I am talking about. They're important sometimes in my life. They help my life. But if I was without them, it wouldn't bother me that much. So I'm going to put phone, social media. It's important sometimes, like today. But if I was without it, it wouldn't bother me too much. So as you can see, these stones are falling around the foundations of my life. And so this last one has to be food. I love my food, but if there was only a certain type of food that I could eat, I don't think it would bother me. So food, going out to restaurants, those kinds of things going in here. So I've built my foundation. I've put in the smaller rocks of my life, which are a lot of my luxuries that I enjoy in my life. So now we come to the sand. So the sand can easily be swept away by the wind, by your hand. These are the things that really don't matter, and yet sometimes we make them matter too much. So some of the sand I'm going to put in is unkindness. Sometimes I can be unkind. It's not necessary. I really don't need to do that. I need to think about what I'm doing at all times. I'm thinking about arguments. Everybody has arguments, but really they're the sand of life. They are the sand of life. They can be swept away and forgotten about. What other things would you cast as the sand of life? Things that aren't important, that can be swept away and blown away by the wind. I think for me, it could be contention. Contention is when you want that argument. It's when you want to let somebody know that you're unhappy. It's when you want justice because someone else has wronged you. I think for me, I have to say it's the sand of life because we have to try to rise above it. We really need to rise above it. So what will be your rocks in your life? Your firm foundations? What will be the smaller stones of your life that are sometimes important, but you really could do without them if you had to? And what is the sand in your life? The stuff that sometimes you make more important than it actually is, because it's one of those things that can just be swept away. So I'm going to close my jar. Shake down the sand. And I'm going to put this on display where I can see it, so that every time I walk past it, I can refocus on what the stones are in my life, what the sand is in my life, and what the rocks really are in my life. This might help you to refocus, especially in this time. What's the most important thing for you, and to keep those the most important thing to you in your life, and not to worry about the other things. Talk about it with your friends, talk about it with your family. What will you put on those rocks, those stones, and that sand? I'd like to hear back from you on what you did. Did you speak to your family? What your 3 rocks, maybe it's only 2, what the 2 rocks are at the moment in your life. I would love for you to email me so that we can talk about it. See you tomorrow for Talk About It Tuesday 3.